Follow me with your shape-shifting smiles, and I see you. Maybe they'll believe you. Illuminati, a curved dawn trial, silver discs and hidden files, and we see you. We've got to believe you. Blast off. Blast off. Blast off. Blast off.
Hey, it is a very beautiful, happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm wearing my green. I always try to keep it spontaneous and fun. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Wolfpack. This is Ryan, the paranormal pontificator of the airwaves, coming to you straight from SpaceWolfResearch.com. Little living lab up here in an area of high strangeness. It's a good time, but there's been some interesting stuff going on. I'm going to be talking about General McCaslin and what's going on there and how interesting this might actually become. Before I do, I'm unboxing one of the Skydio drones we have up here. I absolutely love these things. Recently, 4 or 5 of these were stolen. If you have any information, please notify Skydio. Of course, if you're flying a drone, get one of these. Make sure that you're authorized. Get the recreational UAS safety test completion certificate for your license. Because, believe it or not, these drones have technologies on them that allow them to be tracked when they're in flight, if they're made in the United States. Now, the same is true of Chinese drones. If you get a Chinese drone, like a DJI or anything along those lines, the Chinese government can actually track that drone and anything and everything that you film with that drone. So I was asked to get rid of all of my DJI. They make a great product, don't get me wrong. But I was asked to get rid of all my DJI drones and switch them for Skydio. Skydio is also a military contractor, makes an amazing product. And yeah, they're just beautiful. So they make them in big sizes, small sizes, you name it. I highly recommend Skydio. But more importantly than that, I highly recommend, if you've heard anything about somebody getting some government military X-10 Skydio drones, that you notify Skydio. You can do that at Skydio's website, skydio.com. Great product. So I'm actually moving a drone back to the back here, one of them, and before flight I need to remove some things off of it that it had on it before. But the technology is absolutely amazing on these things, and most importantly, they're made in America. They're American made. Support that kind of thing. Okay, so as I walk this thing back, let's talk about General McCaslin, because this is important. This is important stuff, guys. We have a missing UFO general, of course, and I've been getting information from a variety of sources and trying to bring it to you. On some of the lives, oh, we've got some crane activity back here. You can see this crane right back here. I don't know where, but anyway, I know what that is actually. Some of the information that I've been relaying, especially on the live streams, has gone into the hedge. I've mentioned the hedge, that I had information regarding a hedge and the general. Let me talk about what that is. There was a hedge that was near the general's house, and off of all the ring cam footage that the FBI, OSI, local law enforcement has been going through, they found some footage that looked like the general on this hedge. Behind a hedge, actually, what they saw was a hedge about the size of this fence here, and behind the see this fence here? Yeah, about the size of this fence. And behind the hedge, you could see what looked to be the general's head walking. and then it disappeared. I've gotten this from a variety of sources. That's why I was throwing out the hedge hints, so everybody knew I was getting my info from the top sources. And also so that if anybody else had information, they would come forward and verify or disprove the hedge information. And that's exactly what we've done. We've disproven the hedge information. It turns out that the person behind the hedge, now keep in mind, all levels of law enforcement and intelligence at this point, or previously, thought that this hedge individual was in fact the general. What we've come to find out, though, now, because of, so you got to do this, you got to drop breadcrumbs time to time to get other people to come forward. And I really want to thank those. They don't want me to thank them with their actual name, but I really want to thank the sources out there for keeping me up to date. And we have determined that that person behind the hedge was actually a water meter guy. So somebody checking water meters, and not the general. Very important information. So this is good stuff we're getting. Now, that being said, as it turns out, yes, the general took a .38 handgun with him before he left. It appears at this point, at least all parties involved believe that the general was, in fact, going to take a hike. Very healthy guy, so this would be on par with his daily routine or whatever, weekly routine. Now, it's important that you figure out what's going on behind the scenes, and this is why not only do I put the breadcrumbs out there, this is why I talk about working theories. Everybody's got working theories about what might have happened. And it's important to put those out there. I recently had a podcast where I mentioned Stephen Greer. I think it's important to put that out there because this day and age, actually for the last 30 years, nobody, and I mean probably nobody, has made more money off of ufology than Stephen Greer. By hook or by crook, whether right or wrong, it is what it is. All I know is he's made a heck of a ton of money off of ufology. So this would be something that he would be interested in, I would think, if you're interested in money. I would think this would be something that Mr. Greer would want to keep this gravy train going. In other words, if you were making a ton of money off of ufology and you had somebody like Trump and others saying that they were going to disclose what's really going on, you would think that at some point, right, at some point you would be worried that that gravy train was going to stop. You would be worried that that gravy train was going to come slowing down to the station. Maybe not make a complete halt, but if disclosure involves anything other than these being benevolent space brothers, which has for quite some time been the narrative of many in the ufology community, then I would venture to say that it's important to continue to promote that belief that this is in fact what's going on, that these are just benevolent space brothers. Now, like I said, I don't know the numbers, but over the decades, nobody I can think of has made the amount of money off of ufology as Stephen Greer. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is because there is this allegation in the grapevine. People are alleging that that there was conversations, right? That there was conversations between Greer and between the general, and that these conversations were basically going on for quite some time. That these conversations were, I've heard numbers, maybe upwards of 20 conversations, right? We don't know for sure. But the bottom line is that these conversations, sorry, I'm going to work while I'm talking and talk while I'm working, I guess. But there's this belief that these conversations were going on. And if these conversations were going on prior to the general disappearing, then it makes you wonder, well, this is interesting, right? This is something else. We could have a scenario on our hands if this is the case, if the general was in fact talking with Greer. Maybe it was about something we need to know about. And let me explain. With this disclosure coming out, people like Greer may want to secure assets such as the general, who would know, for lack of a better word, where the bodies are buried. The general would be the kind of person that someone would call on to make the disclosure statements that our president and others have alleged are coming. The general would be the kind of guy that you could point to and say, well, he said this happened. This is part of disclosure. Here it is, whatever that might be. Now, if that doesn't fall in line with the narrative that somebody's pushed for decades, or maybe longer, actually I believe longer, then whatever this shadow government is that's been hiding UFO information from the American people, whoever this deep state is that's been hiding UFO information from the American people since Roswell, something that, believe it or not, the bodies, if they existed, and the craft, if it existed at Roswell, was rumored to have gone to Wright-Patterson Airfield, a place and project that, and base, that the general was in charge of. So the general would have known about this. So my point is, this guy would be a focus. This guy would be in focus. He would be a priority as far as one of the assets. If you were going to push disclosure, he would be one of the assets that would be helping to push the disclosure, especially if you needed verifiable information. So now we have this scenario. Is this the truth, right? Hey, Ingo, stay. So is he an asset pushing disclosure, or that would be needed to push disclosure? I believe he is one. Sorry, I got to put up camera here. I believe he is one necessary. How does this work? Sorry, you have to give me a minute. He would be, there we go, I got it. Give me a sec. This is not as easy as it seems. I'm going to put you on the ground for just a second. So he would be an asset. He would be an asset that would be needed for pushing this disclosure, right? Give me a moment. It's not as easy as it looks. And if that's the case, he's got to be careful. And now we know why he has to be careful. It is because of things like this. Okay. It would be, Bingo, come on. It would be because of things like this. He knows what happened, where it happened, why it happened, what it involved. And if this is a scenario where people are worried about information getting out, let's say that you're an agent of misinformation or disinformation for the deep state or the shadow government or whatever you want to call that area of this. And for those who say that the shadow government doesn't exist, the deep state doesn't exist, let me remind you that it does exist. And I know for a fact that their offices are right over just a few blocks from the White House. Let's go that far. I don't want to get into any trouble here right away, but their offices are just a few blocks from the White House. So they have a lot of pull. There's a reason they're just a few blocks from the White House, and that's because they don't want to go a long way when they have to make things happen or pull the strings they have to pull. Okay, so we have the reality of the shadow government, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, people in power pushing narratives for any particular reason. And there's a number of reasons. Now, what's funny is Greer is always attacking oil, right? He's always attacking oil And this is the dumbest thing ever, in my opinion. I'm a drill baby drill guy. I mean, there's a rig right there. See it? I'm all about the oil. And I'll tell you why. I think it's organic, first of all. It's naturally produced. It comes out of the ground. I don't think there's no such thing as peak oil. We're not going to run out of it like people like Greer and others say. Oh, it's a limited. And I get why the oil. I mean, it might be limited as far as production, but you'll notice that when you get done sucking the oil out of the ground, you can stop that rig for a while, give it a few years, and it'll be all filled up again. Whatever this substance is, I believe it's not peak oil. I don't think we're going to run out of it. And I'm not speaking out of my butt either. My grandfather, I want to show you an anomaly here. My grandfather was a chemist for Chevron. Hey, come here. And he went into the science of why he believed that this is not a non-renewable substance. He didn't believe that it was all fossil fuel, that this is a great disinformation campaign to charge more for the product than you need to by making it scarce. And everybody does it, whether it's diamonds. You have De Beers that hoards the diamonds and then says there's very few of them, even though there's not millions of them. Well, the same is true with oil. We have oil reserves, and then they tell us that there's very little oil. But they do that for another reason, too. This is a stockpile that helps each country's GDP continue. So it's important to maintain a stockpile of this oil. Now, that's the reason I believe that oil will not run out. Now, it's not obviously ideal to just go burning oil all the time. You want to limit that as well. But I'm not going to turn this into a political thing. My point is, let me show you this line that the dog is following. See that line right there? Looks like a line in the... Very odd. Very mechanical looking. The dog is just following it up. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like a mechanical line. It has no tracks in it like a bicycle or anything else. It's just a line and it just keeps going. See how it just keeps going? Anyway, that's why I'm following it. So, see where it goes. So I don't believe there's peak oil. That being said, there are a number of people that have villainized oil companies. Greer is one of them. All these old guys that believe in oil. These are the enemy. They want to keep 0 point energy from you because we have this reverse engineered technology. Now, I'm not disagreeing that we may have reverse engineered technology. However, I am disagreeing because if you were to pull the rug out from under oil, not only would all these guys I just showed you lose their jobs, their families wouldn't have food on the table. Not only would everybody lose their jobs, the older folks, your grandparents, your uncles, your aunts, people that have 401ks with a significant amount of what is considered a very stable stock that pays dividends, the oil stocks, these individuals would have their retirement accounts wiped out. So I believe that there are verifiable reasons why you don't want to pull the rug out from under oil production. Okay. Now, I believe in sacred lands. I believe in keeping things the way they should be. I believe in managing them well, turning the land back the way you found it when you're done. And I've seen firsthand these companies do that. In fact, I've seen Chevron I used to run a bed and breakfast, a fly fishing bed and breakfast in Duchesne, Utah, not far from here. And there was an oil spill from a native tanker, a native tanker truck, that native owned oil tanker truck, I should say. Nothing against, it could be anybody, right? But there was a spill. And I saw other companies that were not that company come in, notably Chevron. I saw a guy, there was a a Chevron employee, a landman working in the area, and he was walking his dog along the riverbank behind my home. He saw the oil before anybody. He immediately got on the phone. We had the EPA, guys in white suits, booms to pick up the oil, everything within an hour. And it was amazing. So I lost that line where it was going. Not my line of thought, but the line that I was following. But I'm back to these strange holes in the ground that we're going to talk about. So he cleaned that all up before you could say a monkey's uncle. So I've seen them clean up. They do care about the environment that they're making a living off of. It's not like you see on TV where they just don't care and they're after the money. These oil companies have the money, Kay, at this point. And they're not scared to spend it to make the country look better, to make the land look better, and to make it look the way it was supposed to look, while providing tens of thousands of jobs, if not more, hundreds of thousands probably. So they are, I believe, a straw man argument when people say, well, the reason we don't know about aliens is the oil companies. That's a straw man argument, but it works, especially if somebody's getting fat checks from the shadow government, intelligence organizations, or the deep state, or potential foreign intelligence sources, whatever the case might be. So my point is, there are interests, these interests that want to keep UFO disclosure under wraps. They don't want anybody to know about it because it also gives power to the people. UFO disclosure also lets you know that you're not just, a nobody, that we're important enough to visit. And it also, if I believe UFOs and UAP and the biologics, etc., these cosmic intelligences, these non-human intelligences are what I believe they are, they make us much more important than some of these deep state and shadow government individuals want you to think, and organizational think tanks. So keep that in mind. Now, I'm not going to get derailed here. I want to show you something. Back to these holes. Somebody said they could be spider holes. I think you said in Colorado. I don't know if it was EDP or I can't remember. It might have been. Anyway, one of the listeners was talking about them. I found some more here. I'm going to give you a good look at them compared to my foot. See those holes? See how deep they go? Hey, thank you, Ingo, for getting in the way. They go pretty deep. Let me find some more. Right there. Go pretty deep. There's a bunch of them here. I'm just going to keep pointing them out. But they go really deep. I stuck stuff down in there. On one, I stuck a pasta noodle like spaghetti deep into the hole, and it was straight enough that the pasta noodle, which is a foot long, didn't break. So I'm not sure what they are, but they're everywhere. That's interesting. So I believe that, yes, there is a portion of ufology that doesn't want the truth to get out because they'll quit making a living. If they'll say that they're pushing for disclosure, right? Oh, here's some more holes. Those have been kind of closed up. They'll say they're pushing for disclosure, but you have to keep in mind, if full disclosure happened, they'd be out of a paycheck, right? Now, get me straight here. I don't make any money hardly at all off of this. So if full disclosure happened, I could take it or leave it. I could care less. I think it would just be cool to know. But if I was making millions of dollars over decades off of ufology, I might have a bit of an issue with full disclosure. I may not think it's that great a thing. And, oh, there's a good hole right there. Holy cow. That hole goes straight down. This one's big. See this one? Look how deep that goes. Straight down. And you can stick stuff in those too. I'm going to see, give you an idea. This is not pasta, but I'm going to stick it in there anyway. All right, so there's the hole. I don't know if you can even see the hole. And let me show you how far you can get that sucker down there. Look at that. The whole thing's gone, and it'll keep going. See that? I don't know. And it's same with the smaller ones. Okay, so yeah, if I'm making millions of dollars off ufology and somebody comes out with full disclosure, that gravy train just dries up, and I'm not going to make any money off of it. I'm going to have to get a real job, right? Now, I think if we had disclosure and you're on the right side of history, you'd still have a job, because you're still going to be wanting to talk about something you're interested in, even if we know what these non-human intelligences are. And a lot of people do know, because I've had this conversation with people, and there are people out there that do know. Gary Nolan, for example, but you'll never hear him tell you what he thinks it is. There's a reason for that. And others. There's others I've talked to that have a pretty good, let me just say, a pretty good grasp as to the generalities and the general idea of what these things might be, these non-human intelligences. But they're not going to come out publicly and say that for two reasons. Variety of reasons, actually. One major reason is, if they're wrong, this will take away all of their validity, right? If they're wrong about what these are, all of a sudden they're no longer the supreme expert on the scenario. The other reason is, if they are making money off of them, off ufology in general, off of conferences and things of that nature, then at that case, waving to a person here showing up, I've got a show around. If they are making money off of it, that money's probably going to slow down at the very minimum. Maybe not stop, but slow down. And there's another variety of reasons. They may be paid shills, for lack of a better word, by the deep state or shadow government organizations or groups, unacknowledged secret black budget Pentagon programs, etc., that don't want the information in the public arena for a variety of reasons. If you knew how easy it was, for example, to make anti-gravity, it's not that complex. If you knew how easy it was to make anti-gravity, and everybody knew how easy it was to make anti-gravity, the world could be in a dangerous, precarious position, because unsavory characters could be utilizing this technology for nefarious reasons. So back to the general. I think we need to keep asking questions. I needed to come forward. Once I debunked the hedge along with others and got that information to me, enough for me to debunk it and them to debunk it, we know the hedge is out. That was a water meter reader, and not the general. So we still don't know where the general is. Now, I got a important phone call last night and a video sent to me and an image of allegedly an Air Force jet that showed up in the close vicinity of where the general went missing, right around the time the general went missing, and then took off. I have that image, and thank you for the individual who sent me that. I've sent it to a couple of choice individuals, a clear enough image that it has the tail numbers of the jet. It came down, it touched down, they loaded something or someone on it, and they took off. I'm not gonna, it's kind of like the hedge, that's all I can say for now, until I prove or disprove it, or until we, more likely, because so far this has been other people that have really been tearing this apart. It's just me telling you about it. But as soon as we know, as soon as I know, I will let you know. And that's an interesting key point and key detail. Now, another interesting detail is that they found this shirt of the general's, which is verifiably his, and that they found it at this trailhead, because everything else points to the general being okay, but yet we found this shirt. So it could also be a way to deflect from the scenario. I also got an important text message last night from an individual, thank you, that was talking about this general situation. And it was going into the arena of the fact they were almost 100% sure, allegedly. Oh, I'm allergic to wasps, and there's a wasp looking right at me. They were 100% sure, allegedly. They said that the general was chipped, whatever that means. Others previously this week have talked to me about the potential for this having to do with a strange GATE program, gifted and talented education program, coming out of some of these bases, and that the general or those close to him may be involved in government neural programs. That's basically stuff like Neuralink that Elon Musk is working, but on a military level, and that this has been going on for years. And I also mentioned that during my Moonlink presentation, a gentleman, who I will not say his name, who was a person of interest in this case, a gentleman stood up and said, hey, he like pointed, he's like, I've got a neural implant. My wife works at Sandia Labs in New Mexico. And he explained how quickly this all works. If you think it's cool to have ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or whatever the AI you use on your phone, imagine having it in your head where you could just think it and automatically have the answer, like an algorithm in your brain. It also enables, allegedly, I believe, actually beyond a shadow of doubt, I don't need to say allegedly, it enables psionic improvement, specifically with calling down UAPs and making communication. So that's what I've heard from people who claim to be in the know. Let's stay on top of this one. I hope you have a very blessed day. Keep your eyes to the skies, feet on the ground. Don't forget to take a look around. Be blessed.
Esoteric Research Organization.
Hero paranormal, always setting up the pace, man. Crop circle tipping, Illuminati still tripping. Making those ears perk up, gonna make you question your earth.
You better.
Mystery bloodlines and secret society. Creepy shapeshifter says, come sit beside me.
Yeah, go see on up.
So what's with all this spiral?
Acting like UFOs.
Say what? So people in Space Wolf tiptoe through the dark. Third eye blinding, tune in and blast off, blast off.
Blast off, baby.
Blast off.